Okay, Rip Gym members, you guys want to continue the discussion on building muscle burning fat? You've come to the right place. This is the second edition of the Embracing Repetition newsletter. I'm Dr. Jose Almeida. I'm the managing member of Rip Gym, and together with Yexeni Orquin, one of the owners, the majority owner. I'm a vascular surgeon, been practicing in Miami for 20 years by day and a bodybuilder by night. I've been a gym rat for 38 years, but been a competitive bodybuilder for the past 10 years. I'm 53 years old, so I'm an over 50 heavyweight on the master circuit, amateur. All right, today let's continue the discussion on fat burning. As it relates to glucose and this very important molecule called insulin. So insulin is the key. What I'm showing you here is a graph of glucose levels on the left, insulin levels on the right. So in red is glucose and blue is insulin. And really what I want to show you is that when glucose is in the bloodstream, the pancreas is triggered to release insulin to bring glucose levels down. So the pancreas sits in the around the L1 vertebrae. They're right in the center of our abdomen and near the back. Very important organ. It has an exocrine function to digest food and an endocrine function, which is the hormone insulin. The islets of Langerhans have alpha cells and beta cells. The alpha cells release glucagon, and the beta cells release insulin. Glucagon is the opposite of insulin. So when glucose levels are high, insulin is released, and the blood goes into the cells and goes out of the bloodstream. We want glucose levels to be in a steady state. We want slow up and down of our glucose levels, and that's how insulin will follow. If we have spikes in glucose, our insulin will remain high, and we cannot burn fat when insulin is high. We need insulin to be 0 to burn fat. Okay, so remember that. When glucose is in the bloodstream and insulin is released, insulin has to bind to an insulin receptor on the surface of the cell. This is an example of a liver cell. So insulin binds to the insulin receptor like a lock and a key, and this activates a series of reactions in the cell to produce GLUT4, or the glucose transporter 4 carrier molecule. Without GLUT4, glucose cannot enter the cell. Glucose cannot enter the cell passively through the membrane. It requires a transport protein. So once glucose is in the cell, it can either get burned or stored. Let's look here at number 5. We touched on this last time. Glucose enters the cytoplasm, goes through glycolysis, and the 6-carbon glucose molecule gets broken into 2 molecules of 3 carbons called pyruvate. So 2 pyruvate are formed for each glucose. Pyruvate enters the Krebs cycle where it produces NADH and FADH. These are reduced compounds that then enter the electron transport chain where they get oxidized to produce 36 ATP. Remember, ATP is the fundamental energy unit, our energy currency. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, so there's 3 phosphates in the molecule. The body cleaves off a phosphate, and in so doing, it gives off the energy. This chemical reaction, the chemical energy can then activate things like muscle to produce motion. All right, so if we burn glucose through the Krebs cycle and electron transport chain, we will make energy. However, if we have excess glucose and are not going to use it, we can either link the glucoses together to form glycogen or a polysaccharide. This is in the muscle and the liver, and it can be released if the body needs glucose. But what I want to focus on is here, that glucose, when in excess, can get converted to fat. How does it do that? Well, remember when the pyruvate enters the Krebs cycle, it gives off a carbon dioxide to form acetyl-CoA, which is a 2-carbon molecule. Well, these 2 carbon molecules of acetyl-CoA will build up if they're not entering the Krebs cycle for energy burning, and then they will get, these acetyl-CoAs can then enter fatty acid synthesis to produce a 16-carbon fatty acid chain called palmitic acid. These fatty acid chains then get linked together with cholesterol and get released by the liver as VLDL compounds, or very low density lipoproteins. That's how they float through the lymphatic system and get to the bloodstream, where they can then enter an adipose cell or a fat cell and get stored as fat. So excess glucose through fatty acid synthesis will go and get stored as fat. All right, so if insulin is high, we cannot burn fatty acids. So fatty acid synthesis, if it's stored, but what we want is fatty acid oxidation. So the fat that's laying around, we want to burn it. In order to do that, insulin has to be zero. When insulin is zero, the body needs glucose. The body needs energy. It will now start to burn fat as an energy source instead of glucose. Let's repeat that. Insulin has to be zero, meaning there's no glucose around. We've used all the glucose already. Now the body still needs to burn energy. It will use fat for energy. Fatty acid oxidation will produce 107 ATPs per fatty acid molecule. So it has more energy capacity than glucose. However, it takes a little longer to get there to burn it. So bodybuilders eat every 3 hours. We usually eat a protein and a complex carb and maybe some nuts for some good fats like omega-3s. But the complex carbs get burned slowly. So glucose gets released slowly. Insulin has that nice steady state. We don't want to be eating sugars and getting insulin spikes. So when insulin is down, we can then burn our fatty acids. So insulin usually sticks around for about 2 hours. Then all the glucose that we need gets burned, and now we start burning fat for our energy source. That's what bodybuilding is. So in order to do this, we have to be lifting the weights. We have to be doing the cardio. We need to be active. People that are sedentary get insulin resistant. That's a form of type 2 diabetes. So insulin resistance will not allow you to bring the insulin levels down, and the glucose sticks around in the blood, and we get diabetes and get sick. So we need to be active. We need to be lifting the weights. In the fed state, after food, insulin gets released, and the insulin needs to come down so we can burn fat. In the fasting state, glucagon is released, and this is what stimulates fatty acids to get burned. All right, so let me just leave you with this last thing. I often hear people saying these lame excuses that they're too tired or too busy to go to the gym. Well, if you want to get ripped, you got to get after it. Like an old football coach of mine used to say, you work, you win, you loaf, you lose. So just to give you a sense of what I do, I wake up at 4:15 every day. I eat my first meal, usually oatmeal and some protein. I go to karate at 5 a.m. I've been doing that for 22 years. I'm a 4th degree black belt. Been with the same sensei for 19 years. Then I go to the office and do about 5 or 6 surgeries throughout the day, and then I will eat my meals every 3 hours between cases. I have my meals prepared. It makes it easy for me, and I eat the same thing every day, which makes it easy for me. That's where embracing repetition or the discipline comes in. I just eat the same thing, and I wear the same thing, so I don't need to worry about that. I just go about my day and do my cases. And then at 6 o'clock, I'll go to the gym to lift weights with Yaxeni, my personal trainer. The key about a trainer is that you may get there tired, but once I get there, I'm locked in. She will bust my butt for an hour. Whether I like it or not, I'm locked in. And then I get home, eat my 6th meal, say hi to my wife of 24 years and my 4 kids who I'm trying to get through college. Usually get on some conference calls because I'm on multiple committees for vascular surgery, and usually get to sleep around 10 or 11. So, this excuse that you're too tired or too busy to go to the gym, let's just make a deal here, and let's just cut the bullshit and get to the gym. All right, let's do that. You want to get ripped, you got to work. You got to work hard. You got to work every day. You can have your cheat meals, but if you can get in this routine of eating good food every 3 hours in the right portions, and being active, I think you're going to be a happy camper. Dr. Jose Almeida from Rip Gym concluding. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment by email, and I can tweak these any way you like. Thanks.